right now until we turn, I'm only taking this class and a class with Dr. Wiley.
Right.
But I will take all of you guys next semester. God,
Right.
I'm taking general 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
I can take all those all at the same time.
We've had people do it. Sometimes it just has like the time restraints.
Yeah, that's what I'm just thinking too, that maybe some might overlap or.
But I do believe it's Tuesday and Wednesday. 2 is Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 1. I feel like 1 and 3 are 10 and 11 Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
I'm gonna try to do it.
Right. I would get
Those
it
are the
done.
last 3 classes I have to take.
I want this. I feel like this is like a frequent common problem here. It just doesn't want to go. But that's okay. There we go. Okay. The newborn system. Oh, did we already put up where you guys will present on?
Yeah, we have to pick our days, right?
Yes. Yeah. Just like pick a date.
Just do that on D2L right now.
Right. Yeah. Any Tuesday or Thursday. I just wanted to make sure I had that up. So I'm like, you're supposed to always stay 1 or 2 weeks ahead of the class. Otherwise, do you have any teachers that get behind the class? Not yet. I bet you have.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who though. I would have to name them for you.
And they end up canceling class?
I don't know. What happens when your teachers get behind on their class?
They cancel class.
You think that's what it is?
Yeah. Certainly what it is.
That's nice. That is nice. Okay, so yeah, we've got a date you can present and major mental health. We're actually getting into the infant mental health. Did you know infants have mental health?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the big topic on this one.
Healthy mom, healthy.
Right, yes. I wanted to get a better view. There we go. Okay.
I mean, I would have figured, but I never thought about
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Not to, I mean, this is neither here nor there, but you watch that, I watch a lot of TV. You watch that, Netflix series, Jeffrey Dahmer?
Yeah.
Remember how they were saying all the stuff that mental health issues his mama had though?
Yeah.
And all the drugs she was taking when she
Oh,
pregnant.
yeah.
I think that plays a role in how he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just,
He probably did. He was.
because he was numb to the world.
Yeah.
And mom took all the drugs to become numb, so she couldn't feel anything. She had a baby that
Yeah.
had no,
Think about that.
they had no,
He left him to left him
right.
That's sad.
He was crazy.
But imagine how that, you know, like, you ever see too, like some babies that just, so this baby that I beat, I shouldn't say anything, because I don't know, God bless him, I hope he's okay. But he just don't like to be held. I think that's so sad.
Yeah.
Like, he'll cry like his mama will just, and at first I'm like, oh, I just put him in the swing.
How old is he? Is he like?
He's like, so he has to be 10 weeks now.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he need to be held.
He don't like to be held.
Damn.
He like will just be content in the swing the whole time. Or we also have like this bassinet
Yeah.
thing at my house, and I'll put him in there, but you hold him, and you know, like when he cries, like my youngest son and her middle child play football together, and you just hear the baby crying, and she's just been trying to like hold him. He's so sad. I think something's wrong with him.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's, I mean, I don't know, because my kids just like to be held, but I can't
Yeah.
compare her child to my kids. I know, but I mean, I feel like I'm around a lot of babies.
Right.
10 weeks
Yeah.
is, they like to be held.
Didn't your babies like to be held?
Yeah, like all day, 24 hours.
Like,
a day.
can't put them down.
No,
Like, don't
that's-
even,
She doesn't put him down, and that's
Yeah.
partly why she's stressed out.
like, put them, like, they gotta watch you take a shower. Like,
Yeah, I have to hold him while she takes a shower.
Put them in the shower with you. Like,
Yeah, the 1 and 2-year-old will drag in, and I'm like, just take them with you. Yeah, yep. Yeah. And so I don't, like exactly know the exact, perfect mixture, but
I feel like a baby would want to be held. Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
even put him in his bouncer and feed him a bottle because he don't like he'll cry and be fed, being held.
I wonder if
think
something
that's
bad
different.
happened to him when he was held too, or maybe he was dropped being held. He's like afraid that'll happen again.
Even if he was, I dropped a baby.
Yeah, well, they all
Still
get
like to be-
dropped. Yeah,
Once they drop, you pick them up and leave.
Yeah.
I don't know.
yep. I hear you. Yes.
You know,
Okay.
y'all know. I don't want to talk about that baby. Pray about him.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, so yeah, we talk about things social workers do. So infant mental health, this field promotes healthy social and emotional development, 0 to 3 diagnostic. Task force was created about 30 years ago, so that was 1994. And really they just define these 3 things. So for kids, experience, regulate, and express emotions. So that's what we do, is teach them how to express emotions and regulate emotions. Form close, secure interpersonal relationships. Being held is a part of that, also explore environment and learn in context of family, community, and cultural expectations for young children. Because we're all going to have different stuff we do with our kids. That's just period, no right answer. Also, they're vulnerable to abuse and neglect. So maybe like you were saying, he could have experienced something being held, but he doesn't want to be held, or he's just scared, or cortisol's high. They can develop problems with feeding, sleeping, or behavioral regulation. And then problems in infant-parent relationships are usually due to a previous pregnancy loss, postpartum depression, infants' medical or developmental problems, parents' drug use. And these are some of the things, if you wanted to present on any one of these topics, when you guys present on a major mental health disorder, things that can affect it. Abuse as an infant, prolonged separations, family stress, parents' mental illness, or a parent with their own long-standing attachment disorder.
So, he probably got depression to do the girl. I mean, the infant she was talking.
Well, the mom, she has some mental health. Like I don't know. I don't want to say mental health. She has a lot of life stressors. I'll be trying to diagnose people.
Right.
That's what you do.
Social work.
Yeah, social work.
Yeah.
But I didn't know infants can have depression. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she had she lives 2 houses down from me, and so her baby's father also had another baby too. Was about to have another baby too. So her baby's 10 weeks old, and this baby's about to, be born.
Oh.
So she'd always
Trying to see where he's at or following him, or be
and
like,
to the point where even our little organization, she'd be getting stressed out because he'd be bringing the other girlfriend or whatever to the football games and stuff. So I just assumed that she could be talking about it a lot.
What's the most babies you've been seen born at once by one man, in the same?
And 4.
Really? I just heard 4 yesterday too. I was like,
At the same time, that's crazy.
In the same years.
and they all had them, because that's what's pretty impressive.
Looks like one of them. Like he just
Because
14 years crazy.
I would say 4 too.
do they all look the same?
I hope not.
They all got.
They all got the dad look,
Yes.
and there's 4 different moms are like,
Two of them is with one. And actually, it might be 5. Hold on, it might be more than 5. It might be more than 4.
okay,
It's 4.
that would be hard to pay for,
Child support.
Yeah.
You're gonna get in.
Right? Yeah, something to think about. Did we already talk about the growth rate in class? What the average 2 humans in America have for children? It's
No.
called like the birth rate. Do you guys know what it is? And do you know what replacement would be? Like, think of mom and a dad. If you replaced yourselves, I guess a boy and a girl.
Huh?
You have a boy and a girl, and you replace yourself, then you die, and then the boy and the girl replace it. Like if you had exact replacement, and we kept population exactly at what it is right now,
I see.
what do you think the number is right now? Per 2 people, how many kids do you think we all have?
2.
So they're saying replacement is 2.1. So I guess that's just to have a little bit above 2.0. I forget why that is. We were looking it up in the last class. And it was interesting. So I want to show it to you. Actually, there it is. So the last time we were at replacement, which was 2.1, was 1971.
What is the
So wait,
like 0.64? Like what's the 0.64 for?
So say like it sounds like out of 2 people, say there was 20 people, and then the average would be 16 births, or out of 10 women, the average is 16 births. So it's semi-confusing because it's not an exact number. Where like, how do you have a 0.64 of a human?
Mhm.
It's doing the overall number. Like for example, right now Mexico is now just under replacement. 40 years ago, they were at 5 times. Yeah,
so
you
does
would have.
that mean they're
They would have 5 kids per every mom. Mexico, we had 1.81 in 1979. That was the year after I was born. Canada was already well below 1. So in the US and like Europe, I guess what I'm trying to say is we are way below replacement.
So does that mean like women are not having enough kids? Or?
Our population is drastically falling. Now immigration replaces that. So we've got a ton of immigration, and that might be why like we've got open borders. Because we're like, dude, we don't have enough. We need to keep 320 million in the US to keep the economy, whatever. Or they're just letting them in. Hello. So does anybody remember what happened in 1971?
Was it with China? Or no?
What's that?
Was it with China?
There was a legislative act. So like legally what in the Supreme Court was passed in 1971.
Was it Roe versus
Oh,
Wade? Yeah.
And then we dropped below replacement. So like,
Right after that.
yeah. Now China, have you heard of the one child policy?
They're only allowed to have 1 kid.
They were for a long time. And they would do what were called selective abortions. Have you
So
heard?
is that where what's that movie called? What Happened Monday or something like that?
What's it called?
I forgot what it's
Oh,
called.
I
It's
know
like-
what happened to Monday.
Or, wait, what is the movie called when you only supposed to have you only allowed to have 1 kid?
Yeah, I've seen that. That's so good.
I think it's called.
Is there a movie?
yeah. And it was like.
Yeah,
Could I search like one child policy movie and maybe it'll pop up?
I
Yeah,
think it
you're
is
right,
called
like,
What
in
Happened
a
to
society where you cannot have
More than 1 kid.
more than 1 kid, and they like have like
7,
6 or
right?
7.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And they're all
Oh,
there's
yeah.
7 kids because they're all
Yeah.
named
Yeah.
Monday, Monday.
I did watch this movie. What happened Monday? Yes.
It's called What Happened Monday.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, see you, Samaje.
No, but this one is new. One Child Nation. I
It was
don't
a
watch
new
that.
documentary. That's a new documentary.
So in like getting into mental health, because maybe like you had said, maybe there was an unwanted child, but they had to have them anyway. So maybe that's why they got this way or that way. So the conversation starter was like children mental health, infant mental health, and like some of the factors that go into it. Are we overpopulated? And there's a whole series of discussions that come from this. Do you guys think we're overpopulated? Have you heard of that before?
Overpopulated?
Like worldwide, they say we could fit every 8 billion people into 5 square acres, I think. Like we fit 8 billion people into 5 square acres if we had to. Sounds crazy.
Mhm.
Because that would just be like, that's not very much, like that's, I guess that would be,
Is that accurate?
not that Google will answer it for me, but let me Google that for you.
I don't think America is overpopulated.
Right. True.
Yeah, because I think because of just the modern world we live in, right? Because if we lived in like a agricultural world, we would be able to have like, I think we would be able to feel like society would feel like it's more acceptable to have bigger families. But since like we live in like single family homes, most of us do, not every, it seems like, they should only have a certain amount of kids. Like, my husband's grandma, she's like one of 15, like they're all here on the shirt.
Well,
But they lived like differently. Like, they lived like on a farm and.
right,
It was
yes.
easier to raise a bigger family.
Right, and.
So that's a good way to answer
raise
it.
kids.
If we all lived in a first world heavy consumption mentality, like we had, cheap energy and cheap oil for everybody.
Homesteads and stuff like that.
Right. And
We
so
don't
that's
like that.
the difference. Now, so getting back to this, the one child policy in China, India and China also had something happen in the past couple of years. This was April of this year. Excuse me. So China was the most populous. Now it's India.
So wait, I'm confused. How are they the most populated if they can only have like one?
They no longer have that policy.
Okay.
And here's why. This is what we started digging into earlier today is, well, that was the human trafficking stuff too, but if you have selective abortions, what do you think would eventually occur? And then who would survive?
The males.
Yeah, why? Why is that? Why do you think it was the males?
I feel like they the ones that carry the name.
They keep the money and the property and the name. That is why you are absolutely correct. Gosh, there was a perfect, maybe I should go to history, but it's going to be all over the place as usual. But we had a pretty good explanation that was kind of like, wow. So the males, if you always picked the male and you did it for 30 years, what do you think would happen? Like natural law.
It's gonna be more males than females.
Right. So then I kind of looked up this, which was
Wayfair presents mattresses.
Of course, you got to see your commercial for the heck of it. But right now, there's 30 million more women in China, and 40 million more women in India. So it's an imbalance of 70 million.
Now that's dreamy.
So here's kind of a
Welcome
mental
to the
health
most
piece.
miserable place in China for lovers. Here, where single men sit around all day, it seems, with nothing to do. You come across them everywhere, listless and hopeless. And to make things worse, the few women here hightail it out this economically depressed region as soon as they can.
Women leave to go far away to the cities to work. They don't come back. They marry men there and don't come back.
Chinese have a preference for boys, and that has produced a gender imbalance across the country. Here in Hainan, island-wide, there are 130 men for every 100 women, and in some places, the ratio is as bad as 170 to 100.
That's crazy.
Meet the four brothers of the Tian family. The eldest, 40, is Tian Jingqing. He's single. Next comes Tian Ling Rong, 38, also single. Then Tian Rong, who is single at 29, and finally the youngest, Tian Hui Rong, 27, of course, single. They tell us they've all given up on finding a wife. In a country where there are more men vying for fewer women, they say they've got little to offer.
We are poor. I guess we can work harder. But finding a wife is even harder than making money.
So they've resigned themselves to a life of bachelorhood.
I'm 40. There's no way for me. I just drink every day.
Their mother would nag her sons every so often. Her anxiety is not the exception in this village, but the rule. There are many families here like the Tians.
有啊，想看见有小孩呀，有。
Yes, I want grandchildren, but it happens. I don't have that hope anymore.
This might be an extreme example of the male-female ratio problem, but to varying degrees, the frustrations of the villagers exist throughout China. And for those who engineered the single-child policy, the gender imbalance has been the worst unintended consequence. Because while families in the past might have just kept trying for a boy if their first child came out a daughter, the limitation has now meant only one chance to have that precious boy. Since the implementation of the single-child policy, the sex ratio in China, already bad, has gotten much worse. Abortions of girls abound. In order to prevent this, authorities have made it illegal for doctors to tell parents the sex of their child during ultrasound checkups. But as we found out, for about $20 US, it's easy to get an illegal ultrasound check. At this clinic, a man gives us the phone number of someone who, he says, can help. And this nurse here at a hospital says they can arrange an abortion with no questions asked. It'll just cost extra. Everywhere around Hainan are government messages to convince the public boys and girls are equal, echoing Chairman Mao Zedong when he said women hold up half the sky. But across the country today, many of the women are missing. Melissa Chan, Al Jazeera, Hainan, China.
So that's one example of just how policy can affect global population. Yeah, 70 million imbalance. So
there's way more men than there is women.
By 70 million right now. So like 30 million in India and 40 million in China, or vice versa. I can't remember the exact number, but kind of the natural law, when we try to maybe make those major decisions, then it balances itself out. It's like we can't keep doing that. So they did like stop or make it illegal to find out if you're having a boy. They no longer have the one child policy. So that's just, yeah. And it's, you see the difference in, like how India and China have their, it's crazy that small has 1.5 billion people. Like the US is 3 times this and we have 300 million.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where China's pretty big, but, and then you've got Russia, which is enormous, and it probably only has, I don't know what the population of Russia is. Probably the same as the US or less. So that's kind of like some of the discussion. They have about half of the United States. That's interesting. They got massive land, like most of Asia, really. So going on with mental health of children, we assess it. There's several like ways that we do. AIMS is one of the instruments they do, assessing emotional well-being of children from birth to 5 years. We do attachment for mastery, interaction for the social support. There's definitely a lot of theories that come around attachment. We're going to get into them actually down here a little bit. So some of the interventions for emotional development, we, as social workers, show the admiration for the baby and the parent's presence, point out the parent's ability to hear the baby, like if they cry, request, and respond appropriately. So just talking about how do we communicate with our kids, like with as many distractions as we have nowadays. Like you have a kid and taking away that, giving them our undivided attention has become harder than ever before. As we got all these bells and whistles and dings and rings and just distractions everywhere. I commend you guys when I'm like, I don't even know how you all finish college nowadays. There's a billion distractions. Like how, and maybe I'm speaking too soon. Is how many people you all started with as freshmen? What's the percentage that have stayed?
Is
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's sad. Like there's so many distractions or so much stuff that goes on. It's just like powering through and finishing, focusing. Like I feel surprised when I finished. I'm like,
Come on now. Amen.
you know, it's like, damn, all the stuff that comes up in life and all the things that happen and distract us. So also discuss the role of the other parents in caregiving, because there is always seems to be one may work more than the other. Sometimes people are still able to pull off like a stay-at-home parent, but that doesn't mean the stay-at-home parent isn't working. They're usually working their ass off. Some studies suggest that a stay-at-home parent earns close to $180,000 a year.
How though? If they stay at home.
If they had to pay childcare for all those kids, I think that's where they're coming up with those stats. Like if they had a cook, if they had a, I know, but isn't that interesting? That's how they're kind of pushing the stay-at-home mom salary is equal to $100,000 a year.
Did you say 180?
If you Google it, you'll see some interesting numbers. And then when you search, there's an interesting video too, like how much should your breadwinner make? And some people, I don't know if you guys have ever seen these videos, like maybe it's just out of touch with what the average salary is, but they're like 190,000, 200,000. Like, you're talking the top 1% of earners.
So the number one thing I feel of being a job developer is I'll have like I work with children, 16 to 24. Yeah, you guys are considered children to state of Ohio.
Adolescents.
We call them children.
Right. Because you could be on an IEP till 23 or 20.
Yeah. But like everyone wants a stay-at-home job, a work from home.
Right.
But they're like, oh, I can just, but like those positions now, like, they're wanting you to have a bachelor's and a master's degree.
Right.
And they want you to live in a single family home, and they want to come and inspect your home and make sure that you
have a room
have an
dedicated to your
office and
job, right?
you have childcare. Like it's not.
We do not have an office anywhere in our house. We did it for 11 months, and then we had James.
And then sometimes the companies don't want it to be in your bedroom.
Right. Yeah.
So like just all those stipulations.
Yeah.
Like that's a barrier for 100% of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like a work from home position. I don't.
Look at the price of houses.
Yeah. Like my mom, when we have a 2-bedroom apartment, it's nice, but she paid $1,500
That's a lot.
for a 2-bedroom.
That's a lot.
Like
That's like
that was more than
40% of most
mortgage.
people's income. Very easily.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate when I hear that.
Right. So.
But the blessing is, she's doing well to be able to afford it. Go
Mhm.
ahead, Mom. Yeah.
Yep. It's crazy. Is that in Dayton too, you were saying? So that's like the average price in Dayton or Columbus? Indiana.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Is that Indianapolis? That's got to be like the city.
Fort Wayne. It's like 2 hours.
Oh, right. You've said this, and that's like near
Fort
the.
Wayne is so nice.
You been there?
Yes. My son.
I went to a wedding there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fort Wayne cool.
I went to a wedding there in 2002.
Oh, dang. Where at?
It would have been whatever the Catholic Church is up there.
We have a lot of
I'm
churches.
sure there's plenty. Yes, I was going to say. I'm sure there's because it's near Notre Dame, really, right?
Notre Dame on the kind of by Illinois.
Okay.
We
South
right
Bend.
by Ohio border.
Okay. So those add into the mental health issue. So when you guys do your presentation on a major mental health issue, your next big assignment, these are some of the ones that you can consider that like parents face.
I'm doing postpartum.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Is there a rubric for the presentation?
It's all in the syllabus. You want me to show you the?
No, I can just.
Okay. So just presenting, and to brief it for you guys, like what is the major mental health issue? Like give the definition, how we as social workers diagnose it. So like usually that's fine. And then it's all the stuff we do as social workers. So if you want to be a social worker, you're going to be familiar with all the major mental health diagnoses. I got it in psychology too. You may not be the one who actually diagnoses them, but you can be the one who diagnoses them. That's up to you. Like if you want to get your clinical license, which is only 1 more year. So like, yeah, you get your MSW in 1 more year. That's why us being accredited is such a big deal. That doubles your salary in 1 extra year of school for an MSW. Easily doubles your salary. So if, because when I finished, I only wanted to be, we were talking about this earlier, like a homeless advocate. I did not want to write notes or do any paperwork because of my dyslexia. I'm like, I just can't do this writing crap. I swear. I quit. And then some dude said, mhm.
Wow, Dr. Trop, you are like an onion with all these layers.
And that was diagnosed in grad schools. I just kind of cruised through undergrad. So I was like, wow, I'm really like failing
You went
out.
through elementary and high school.
And then
I just kind of snuck through. It was, but kind of speaking for showing up.
Whoopings as a kid.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I let the yard on fire.
okay. Nah, that's pussy.
I was mad.
Yeah.
I was mad.
Did you like cry when you have to read and stuff?
I remember it being a struggle, and like some of them say so developmentally, apparently, if you crawl and learn how to crawl, that helps you with like eyesight and reading and all that. And apparently my mom said I went from a military crawl right into walking and like skipped that. And she's like, I swear that's why you're dyslexic. I'm like, that's weird. But there's some research on that too. And long story short, somebody said if you get your license, you'll get $35,000 a year. And I was like, oh. So the money talked, you know, I hate to say it, but I went and took the license exam. You need a 70. I think I got a 71, and I worked at Claremont Recovery Center, and that's a 50% raise. Like, get a license, write some notes. That was the last thing I ever wanted to do in my life. And 50% raise. I remember putting in my week's notice at the old place, and they were kind of pissed. They were like, I know, 24,000 a year to 35,000 a year. I'm out. I'm gone. So, point being, there I did have to assess, diagnose, and that's what we learn in graduate school, but you guys will get introduced to it here, like DSM-5. How do we diagnose depression? How do we diagnose ADHD? How do we diagnose? And usually there's 5 of 9 categories you have to meet. And I have the DSM-5. I could actually send it to you guys for free because I digitally downloaded it. You seen the DSM?
I ain't seen it.
I could send you a copy because I ripped it off the internet. Actually, Nikita sent me the updated one. Have you guys seen the DSM-5 before? I'll probably have to send it from my other computer for. You pick a day. It's already in there in assignments. You can pick a day.
But like we don't know what date to put this.
Any Tuesday or Thursday in October. You can go next week
So
if
how
you
do
want.
how do we know?
Well, I put it in the discussion too. So if you write it in the discussion, then you can see everybody's dates if you wanted. Pick a date to present on a major mental health disorder.
Okay, so
That's the 3rd major assignment. Okay, so learning to diagnose, what that diagnosis would look like, how social workers will diagnose, and then what do we do to work with that problem? Like, how do we work with depression? How do we work with addiction, alcoholism, and any other questions that you see come up that you want to present on? So just to cover like the full range of that. Yes. Do you like group projects?
It didn't matter.
I'm not a big fan of group projects.
I hate them.
And it's okay if you guys like group projects. I just have seen them go all kinds of different directions, and it's just a whole lot easier to keep it.
No, I got an A on my last group.
Did you? That's good. Where do they still do them? Is it Nisha or Nikita that's doing them?
It was
Nisha for sure.
Who is it?
Miss Diamond, I did it.
Okay,
Oh,
right.
yeah, I remember
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're in one.
Are you?
Yeah, me and her for Miss Nisha class.
Okay.
Or Miss White.
That's good. It could be like herding cats sometimes. So I get it. I definitely get it. But no, you'll pick one if it's alcoholism, addictions, bipolar disorder, depression, poverty, like how poverty affects upbringing, and then just like all the mental health implications. What's that? Okay. That's a good one. Because even with that, you got food deserts and food apartheid and food swamps.
It's a presentation.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So you all present on a major.
Is it a certain length we have to meet? Like a certain,
How many slides?
Just to be able to speak on it, like
So it's 5
productively
minutes.
10
Okay.
10 to 12. Yeah. Yeah. And you can have a video. You can have.
So we can record ourselves and you just play it in class?
Well, I was saying a video to like talk about some of the stuff, that, like if it's a food desert.
Like
or
if you
if
find a
it's-
video on YouTube that relates to your presentation, you can put it in your presentation.
Okay.
But if you did really want to record yourself, because we're still in the pandemic era, say you catch COVID tomorrow, you gotta do everything online. You film it on Zoom and send a link. Huh? Well, 10 minutes, however
10
long it
minutes.
takes.
Ooh, my bad.
Right?
10 minutes.
That's why people throw a video in,
10 minutes.
because you will be expert.
You can throw me in a video.
But I mean, I ain't about to find
I ain't
out
living
anything.
though. I ain't working.
Bro, 10 minutes?
You are going to be,
I know
yes.
10 minutes is long.
So you throw in Q&A and you are the expert on this.
Let me give you roughly 5 to 7.
50% of that. Sounds about 70% would guess it then.
You gonna post all of the instruction
10
on
minutes, that's a
D12?
good 25 slots.
Yeah, it's in the syllabus and I can
Oh,
put
okay.
it separately into D2L.
So, I mean, to submit this assignments, I don't need to add a file. You want us to add like a Word document? It says our date on it?
You can,
I'll do it.
yeah. And then put it into the discussion. That way everybody will see. So, because
Yeah,
I've
just said
opened,
add thread to the discussion.
and then open
You
that.
just type right there.
So as you guys learn, actually you have a fully dedicated DSM class in the graduate school. So you all have to take like how to diagnose somebody. And you'll learn at your internships. Who all was going to go to Dr. Hunt for their internship? Was there a few of you?
I want to talk to her.
Yeah.
I can't find her. I mean, I can find you. I can't find time to actually talk about internships.
Right.
She's always
Because you all have them next year? Or she hosts interns. Some people would rather go to all the different agencies because like you could have a potential hire after you go to those. Like one being in inner city Xenia and like the child and family services, the probation, the courts.
I don't know where I want to do mine, man. I just want to explore like all the different.
Yeah. Yep. Well, yeah, and then see where you want to work as a social worker. Anybody here for their MRS degree? You ever heard of that one? Do they still call it an MRS degree? That's what, when we were going to school, they would say, and to be fair, it could be like the MR period degree or the MRS degree. Some people, they would say, just go to college to get married. You ever heard that before? Yep.
That's what my nana did.
That's what, and they would call it an MRS degree. No, I'm serious. So they're like, yeah, work after college. Huh?
The ring before spring.
Probably. Would that be like senior year, you're saying?
I don't know. It's just called the ring before spring.
Right.
And
So
like,
some
they end up
people,
being
and that's,
engaged by graduation.
and they want to be, and that's I'm not judging it. So I'm telling you, I'm not judging it, but that it was said way more back like when I went in the 90s than it is now, which is also fine. It's just interesting to see. They still say it at Miami University. I have heard that. Wasn't one of you going to go to Miami University? Okay. They still say it there, which that's where I learned about it. I had never heard of it before. So internship where they hire you, we have a lot of internships that'll hire you once you're done with your internship, and that's kind of cool. Like the UPP position is a good example of that. And then what's that? She said, come to class. You ever have them harass you during class? You're like, I said.
Yeah, that's just what's going on right now.
Like, and hence the distractions. That's what I'm saying. You guys can do this. You're all strong. You will finish. You'll do awesome in your careers. You can talk for 10 minutes on something good, you know, because that's what we're expected to do as social workers. Like, we meet with a client. Guess how long you have to talk with a client when you're meeting with them without distraction? 53 minutes will let you bill for an hour. They do have like 8-minute phone calls you can bill for. 23 minutes gets you 30 minutes billable. 38 minutes gets you 45 billable. This is like Medicare and Medicaid. So that's where it is good to like learn to start stretching out. Like when we lead groups, we try to make it a 15-minute group because that would be the minimum billable. Like usually groups are 38 to 53 minutes.
Everything I do is an hour.
Right.
Even if
Yeah.
I talk to you for 5 minutes.
That's good.
Because you got to do their notes.
Well, if that's what your agency says to do too, it's however you're trained. Like at Lighthouse, if we met 11, this was we had right 11 minutes.
That's too much.
Otherwise, it's Medicaid fraud and like hammer you with it. Right, right. So we have to bill Medicaid. It's $93 per hour. So if you got 53 minutes, the agency gets 93 per hour, and then they pay you whatever you negotiate your hiring salary is. And a private practice, yeah, it's you have standard wages. So did you all look up what's that? If you did a private practice, that's what you can set your rates at if you wanted to. You just gotta kind of build a clientele. And so why I say like staying focused there too is even I have 5 clients on Monday night and 3 clients on Wednesday morning, and staying focused for those 53-minute sessions with all the things that come up. I'll get a billion emails and 5 phone calls, and you're like, you hear it buzzing. Want to look? Just like, so those are some of the things you could present on. Anybody else have an interest in addictions, alcoholism, opiates? Hey, Ron.
Yeah.
And that's a big diagnosis. And the DSM is 305.20. And I had to diagnose it all the time at Claremont Recovery Center. Here's another round of social work jobs. So we mentioned developmental disability. So until the 70s, parents were encouraged to institutionalize their kids that had a developmental delay. There's a lot of sad videos about that too. Like if your kid had cerebral palsy, they'd be like, just send them away to the institution. But then there's a dude who broke the news in 1971. His name is Geraldo Rivera, and he's still alive and around. He broke something on this story in.
Did he used to have his own show?
Yeah, he became famous from it. Yes,
Yeah,
yes. Yeah. So,
Was he institutionalized? Or did he just write the story?
he like snuck into these places, and he was the one who like called them out. And there's a few of them that talk about 50 years later than when he did it. And maybe hopefully that one's not too long, but it was called Willowbrook. So a lot of kids were put into Willowbrook 50 years ago. And that was just the normal way to kind of deal with your kids until this story was broke, because they really thought their kids were being taken care of. And they're like, yeah, we'll take care of your kids and we'll take the state's money and they'll be safe and well. And the story that he broke kind of went far and wide. So, which helped set the policy for not just mental health, but developmental disabilities that a lot of students would get. And I probably should just do Willowbrook.
Could they still visit their kids? Yeah, cause like.
They probably had to do a scheduled visit, and that was the issue. And they'd probably have like the kid cleaned up and in a separate room. Like, here's your kid right here. I always, they're all about 12, but it's just interesting that it was that crazy to see, what the kid. I wish there was a. But this is kind of what led to. We used to think retarded kids didn't have mental health and didn't have things that would set them off and whatnot. Like, oh, they're just retarded. But as they studied and looked at what was going on at Willowbrook, they saw. Here's where he broke the story. Like, those are the conditions they had to live in, which is.
I visited the state institutions for the mentally retarded, and I think that particularly at Willowbrook that we have a situation that borders on a snake pit, and that the children live in filth. But many of our fellow citizens are suffering tremendously because lack of attention, lack of imagination, lack of adequate manpower. Very little future for the children or for those who are in these institutions. Both need tremendous overhauling. I'm not saying that those who are the attendants there are the ones that run the institution are at fault. I think all of us are at fault. And I think it's just it's long overdue that something be done about it.
The noises are kind of creepy too.
It's been more than 6 years since Robert Kennedy walked out of one of the wards here at Willowbrook and told newsmen of the horror he'd seen inside. He pleaded then for an overhaul of the system that allowed retarded children to live in a snake pit. But that was way back in 1965, and somehow we'd all forgotten. I first heard of this big place with the pretty sounding name because of a call I received from a member of the Willowbrook staff, Dr. Michael Wilkins. The doctor told me he'd just been fired because he'd been urging parents with children in one of the buildings, building number 6, to organize so they could more effectively demand improved conditions for their children. The doctor invited me to see the conditions he was talking about, so unannounced and unexpected by the school administration, we toured building number 6.
He's like
the doctor had warned
75
me that it would
now.
be bad. It was horrible. There was one attendant for perhaps 50 severely and profoundly retarded children, lying on the floor naked and smeared